What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Wait What Are We Talking About podcast, episode 181. My name is Bret, aka Enigma9011, and you can catch this show live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011, usually every Sunday. But you can drop a follow over there, get notified when we go live. You can join on the fun and the chaos and the conversation. No worries. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. Go over to YouTube and podcast services the very next week where it's broken out topic by topic and put as one big video and MP3 free amusement on the following Friday. Last but not least, I need we could support the show, whether it's likes, subscriptions, reviews, shares, whatever it is. It may seem small, helps the channel grow significantly though. So if you do that, if you take the time to do that, we would love and appreciate you for it. What are we talking about on today's episode? Well, it's wrestling filled, but it's also video game filled here and there if you don't know about it or whatever. We're going to be talking about Money in the Bank, which aired yesterday as of recording, and we're also going to be talking about the video game AEW Fight Forever, which released as of recording 3 days ago. Yeah. So we're giving our thoughts and reviews on that game and have some fun about it. But let's jump into topic one, shall we? Let's talk about Money in the Bank. Yeah! Almost. No, I'm just kidding. It was a very good pay-per-view. We're going to talk about the matches, what went down, all that fun stuff, what we're really confused by, and the like. So a couple different matches that we had over the night. We had the two Money in the Bank matches. We had the men's, the women's, respectively. We had the women's tag team championships on the line. We had the Intercontinental Championship on the line. We had Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. We had a surprise appearance by somebody. We had the World Heavyweight Championship being defended by Seth Rollins against Finn Balor. And then we had our main event of the Bloodline Civil War. And yeah, you know, all that fun stuff. So, let's talk about our opener. Let's talk about the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. So, we had Damian Priest, Logan Paul, Shinsuke Nakamura, Ricochet, Santos Escobar, Butch, aka Pete Dunne, and L.A. Knight. Yeah, going on stage first to fight after Money in the Bank. So, match was great. Match went really, really well. I thought there was a lot of good spots in this match. Santos looked really cool. Ricochet had some dope spots jumping through ladders, jumping over ladders, 450 on top of a ladder bridge. Logan Paul doing what Logan Paul does, getting hated, getting beat up by everybody else in the match. And LA Knight being more over than everybody in the world. It was so bad. Everybody was getting booed at any point there against LA Knight. Even Ricochet at one point threw up a like, what is going on to the crowd? Like, what do you want me to do? At one point when he was interacting with them. But I thought the guys all did a great job. I'm not sure if it was just my perception of the arena layout or their spacing or whatever, because I'm sure the ring was the exact same size that it always is, a 20 by 20. But they didn't have a lot of room to work with. Obviously, you know, the stage layout, the ramp layout, the arena layout is different with these foreign market pay-per-views. We saw it in Puerto Rico. They did the same slant ramp, which I hate, but we've talked about that too many times to go into it again. And the minimal entrance area so they can jam pack as many people in there as they can. And also, you know, moving stuff is difficult and expensive. But it seemed like they had a lot less room also on the outside of the ring, around the ring itself. We had a table spot they had set up where individual A is on ladder, individual B is going to push ladder off, and then person would fall outside of ring onto some tables they set up. We've seen it before. Most famous one probably Bubba Ray Dudley and Matt Hardy going through tables, 4 tables at like Mania 16, 17. We had a similar setup spot here. Obviously a little bit more elaborate as we'll go into as we were talking, but spacing wise things seemed more condensed. Not exactly sure if that was the case or if it was just, once again, my perception. So some things looked a little bit rough, and I'll say that for both ladder matches that happened yesterday. There was a lot of good. There were some things that looked a little shaky. I get it. Adrenaline's a thing. Been there, done that. Something you do 100 times. For some reason, just happens to get a little bit of a flub, or the nerves are kicking in, or whatever happens. It doesn't look as clean. So there was a few instances of that in this match. Nothing awful. Let's talk about the big spot. So we set up 2 tables outside, and we get this sequence of people on the ladders. We get Ricochet and Logan Paul on top of a ladder. They're fighting it out, trying to both get the briefcase, swinging punches at each other. And LA Knight attempts to push over the ladder. Goes for 3 pushes. First push fails, Ricochet pushes him away. Second push, he fails, Logan Paul pushes him away. Third one's the charm. He gets enough momentum and enough pressure to push the ladder over, so Logan and Ricochet are going to fall outside the ring and go through the tables. Well, they decided, let's do something different. Let's do something crazy and insane. They decide, let's do a Spanish fly off of the ladders / ropes and do that into the tables. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I should have gone back and rewatched this. When they pushed the ladder, I'm not sure if it was somebody in the ring or if it was just the gentleman on the ladder itself. They both reach a foot out to kind of get their bearings, get their balance, get grip or whatever. They put a foot out, and then they're going to set up for the Spanish fly. So Spanish fly, if you don't know, one person's facing one direction, the other person was facing the opposite direction. They kind of got one arm around each other in like a hug, and then one person will backflip, the other person will do a front flip. The person doing the backflip is allegedly slamming the front flipper onto their back, and they go do the move there. So they both put a foot out in the rope, and they're attempting to get into this position. I'm not sure if it was just both their feet were mistimed, so somebody missed the rope, whatever. There was a lot of rope shenanigans where they were very off balance and couldn't get a solid base that they wanted to. At some point, they recognized, we are going to fall, and this is going to look awful, or more awful than it does already. So they say, fuck it, we're going to force it, and we're just going to go and pray for the best. The 2 leap, they attempt the Spanish fly, and luckily they rotated just enough, but not clean in any way, to hit the tables and smash at least one of them. Both gentlemen had to over-rotate and correct themselves to stay safe. Logan had to turn to his shoulder, and we saw a giant gash on his shoulder from one of the tables from that. Ricochet may have landed on his head or very high neck. I appreciate the spot and what they were trying to do. It's just this mental gap in my head of like picturing how they thought it would go, that transition from the ladder to the ropes. What was the stepping or the footstep or the footwork from A to B, or rather A to C? What was that in between to get there smoothly, being opposite sides of the ladder and then being next to each other in order to execute the move? Haven't heard otherwise, other than the gash which we saw. I hope everybody's okay. Hopefully nobody's hurt too bad. Yeah, it was rough. It was rough. I definitely could see how that would have been like the big oh shit spot, which it was, but it wasn't for the right reasons or positive reasons, I guess. It was more of like, oh my god, this is dangerous type thing. So hopefully everybody's okay. But that was the big spot of the night. We saw a big moonsault from Butch as well. Glad he got a lot of reception in his home country. That was great to give him some moments there. So we finish off the match with LA Knight fending off some people. He climbs up to the ladder. Priest gets there. Priest hits a broken arrow kind of off the ladder to LA Knight, and then will go and pick up the win and grab the briefcase for himself. Totally fair that Priest gets this. Man's been doing a lot of work, a lot of good stuff with Judgment Day. Obviously had the match with Bad Bunny. Everything flew off there with flying colors. He's had a little bit of a taste at the championship run, having a recent match against Seth a few weeks ago. A little bit of tension between Judgment Day, and we'll get more of that later. Makes sense he won here. Interesting choice from a reception to have LA Knight be the fall guy. Once again, this guy was like nuclear in reception that he was getting from the London crowd. To have him be the down guy, a little bit rough, but also Damien is a bad guy, so I get that. You get heat on him from doing that, so just a little unfortunate it wasn't his time, but glad he got the reception he got. Hopefully they can keep the momentum going with him, that he keeps getting more of these receptions, especially stateside rather. So yeah, Damian Priest, Senor Money in the Bank here, picks up the win and gets the briefcase for himself. Next match was our women's tag team match. So we had Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez challenging Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler for the, are they all undisputed? I don't think they are. WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. This match was surprisingly really good. I had zero interest in this match going forward just because I don't really care for Ronda and Shayna. But I thought the match was really good, and this was the most I've enjoyed the tag team pairing of the two. Come here, Moose. Come here. Stop meowing. Really enjoyed the match here. We got a little fun Dragon Ball Z cosplay from Ronda doing Majin Vegeta. Shayna hers looked familiar, but I could not recognize or pinpoint what it was from, if it was also Dragon Ball Z or if it was something else. So the match was going great, and it was a good time. And then we got this most confusing finish ever. So recently, the titles had to be vacated because Liv hurt her shoulder. So Liv and Raquel lose the titles. In a fatal 4-way, which I was there for, luckily, we saw Ronda and Shayna pick up the titles. They win it in that fatal 4-way. We then had Isla Dawn and Alba Fire get called up from NXT, the current NXT Women's Champions. They get called up. We have a unification match between these two teams where Ronda and Shayna win and become, Supreme Women's Tag Team Champions of the world, or whatever the fuck. And we get to this match, goes great, and for some reason, Shayna, after getting tagged out by Ronda, decides to go and choke out Ronda, allowing Raquel and Liv to both hit their finishers to then pick the tag team belts back up. As far as I know, there has been no tension between the two, and this came out of nowhere. And I think that confusion leaves more of a memorable distaste for the match than the good match itself, like how it should be remembered, if that makes sense. I'm very confused. Now, I have seen one rumor flying around, granted it's a rumor, that maybe Ronda's going to go back to UFC. I mean, if she wants to, great. I'm just, what was all that? Was it just literally checking a box of like, hey, let's be besties and get the title together? And then, like, why is this like your go-away program with Shayna? I really don't know, and we won't know until next TV taping. So very confused there, and I don't think that helped the match out in any way, shape, or form, because it's more of a confusing memory than a good memory. So, yeah. So Liv and Raquel get the titles back. Yippee. I mean, I am happy with the result. I'm just very confused why. After this, we had our Intercontinental Championship match, I believe. We had Gunther going against Matt Riddle. for the IC title. And expected result, Gunther retains. But the two did put on a good match. They played into ankle. They played into Riddle's ankle injury that had kind of happened with Imperium earlier in the month. Good match, solid hits. Gunther retains, and then we get the surprise return of Drew McIntyre. A lot of rumors going around that Drew was not going to re-sign, or he wasn't super happy. He popped up recently for one Special Olympics appearance, which was I really appreciated. Just like, even regardless of whatever relationship they were having, like, I don't know, in my eye, I was like, oh, that's great. I'm glad he's going out and doing that type of thing, because that's separate of the business entirely and all that jazz. But it turns out they must have come to terms. We're setting up a program between him and Gunther, unless this is going to be his last thing here. But excited for that. Obviously, we got the triple threat at Mania. That was great. So now to see it 1v1, I think it's just another opportunity for, the guys to lay in their shit. I don't think he'll be the one to beat Gunther, but still a cool program. I'm not against it. After that, we had Cody Rhodes versus Dominic Mysterio. Now, Papa Griff talking in chat, or messaging in chat, talking about the whole Shayna thing. Like, guess no one saw that coming. No smart marks. Totally agree. I think you could say the same thing for this one, because this was just a straight up match. Sure, there was a lot of shenanigans with Dominic running around, being afraid, and all that jazz. But this is not the way I thought this was going to go. I thought this was just going to be like, the setup for the match was fine. Everything was good there. I thought this was going to be a way for them to build Cody and Brock 3. Cody beats up Dom and then gets distracted by Brock. Brock comes out and beats the shit out of him. Dom goes, ha ha ha, whatever, walks away unscathed, and then he can be like, oh yeah, I totally beat Cody Rhodes. Whatever. But no, it was just a match. It was okay. And then we get our second surprise of the night as John Cena comes out after no announcement of his involvement. Just comes out, riles up the crowd, and is like, hey, I'm campaigning for a WrestleMania in London. Because reasons. And I mean, hey, great. I think it's smart. I think, yeah, London crowd, we saw it in, I know it was Cardiff, Wales, which is a different area. But we've seen the UK show up and show out with their energy and make these events exciting when they do go there. And yeah, why not take this international? It just seemed very odd that this was just John Cena going like, yeah, we could do it. Like, not an official announcement. Like, I joked about it initially, thinking about what the fuck is he doing out here, of maybe Mania 41, because we've already announced 40 is going to be in Philadelphia, I believe. Like, announcing 41 would be in London. That would have been a fun and cool, exciting announcement. But just to be like, oh, hey, yeah, let's do this thing. Team, champ, amigos. Interesting to say the least. I'm not sure if this is a retaliation move, if we really want to dig into it for All In at Wembley. I hope it's not. But yeah, cool to see him. It was just weird that it was just, hey, a rallying call. It wasn't an official announcement. We also had Grayson Waller, hopefully back and ready for action, taking an AA from Cena. Does this set up a match? Maybe. If it does, cool. Just want Waller to get wrestling and show people his stuff. After this, we got the Women's Money in the Bank match. We had Io Sky going against Becky Lynch, Zelina Vega, Bayley, Trish Stratus, and Zoe Stark for the briefcase. Ladies did good. Another case of some shaky stuff in terms of like just fluidity. No super dangerous spots, which is great. So safety all around was good on that. We had a nice sweet Code Red or Sunset Flip from Zelina onto Zoe Stark onto a ladder bridge. That looked great. We tried some different stuff with the handcuff spot with Trish and Zoe cuffing up Becky. I think this was good. It played into the ending of it, as we had Becky end up using the opposite side of the handcuffs that weren't cuffed to anything to kind of fish hook Bayley down the ladder. I like the idea. I don't think it delivered as well as they were intending to, especially with camera getting the shot of it escaping her mouth at one point. But I did really appreciate the end for this, using the cuffs to wrap up Bayley and Becky in the rungs of the ladder, so Io had the opportunity to literally climb over Bayley and her damage control partner to go up and get the briefcase for herself. So Io Sky picks up the win here, gets the contract for her. Good stuff there. I think that was pretty much odds-on favorite for everybody. The only criticisms, I guess I will say, for this match, other than, some things looking a little shaky. Little weird to have two teams on the match and then just two solos. That was a little weird, I thought, just in terms of, not presentation, but from an audience perspective. We saw it a lot at the beginning, a lot of 2-on-1 beatdowns. And I get damage controls a little bit on edge, so you could do that whole thing, and we've done it in the past with past Money in the Banks, Rated RKO, I believe, was both in WrestleMania 23's. But to have these 2-on-1 attacks for a good chunk of the beginning was a little rough. It would have been, I feel, a little bit more interesting, at least if it was everybody for themselves. But that was really the only thing I can think of in particular, that just personally I did not like. But yeah, good stuff. Then I would say probably the weakest match of the night was the World Heavyweight Championship match. To me, this one seemed really short, as Seth went on to defend against Finn Balor and won in the end. This one seemed really short and sweet and to the point. Nothing really tense, lengthy, anything like that, which is a little unfortunate because these guys can definitely go, and they had the story behind them of the Universal Championship from ages ago, getting, a little bit more traction with that, or the callback. We've talked about the Workhorse Championship with Seth, trying to build this title up, and no problems with Seth retaining it. I would have been happy with either result, with either of them winning it. It seemed very quick to me, and the ending, was a bit rough. I get they're trying to show the rift on the breaking of the Judgment Day. So, match is going on, Priest decides to come out, and he kind of distracts Rollins for a little bit as Rollins yells at him. Priest decides to sit down. Finn gets the upper hand. Finn hits coup de grace off the table, off the ramp, off the stairs, all this stuff. Then goes for one more off the top corner post, and Priest stands up and stares at him. This distracts Finn enough for Seth to get back up, hit him, curb stomp him, pick up the win. And we didn't do anything afterwards. We just had Finn and Priest yelling at each other a little bit. I'm just really confused. Is Priest supposed to be conflicted? And that's why he didn't cash in? He has the urge to cash in because, he knows what this can do for himself in his career, and then is held back because it's his Judgment Day partner? Was that what we were supposed to get? Or I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they want to do with Judgment Day, if they want to break them up, if they want this tension there. Because I feel there was ways to do it better if that was the case. If they wanted to, I believe Priest cashing in afterwards on a defeated opponent would have gone farther. Now, you could make the argument which one goes farther, if Seth wins and Priest cashes in, seemingly taking the limelight from Finn, similar to an AEW storyline, ironically, right now with the whole TBS championship. Like, oh, I beat him up this whole time, and then you just come in and take advantage and clean up the scraps or whatever. You could have that, or is it more of a big thing that Priest cashes in on Balor? Once again, you can make the argument of which one would be more of a thing, quote unquote. Just an odd choice. And I guess we'll have to wait till Monday to see how that plays out. But yeah, I would say this was probably the weak point of the night. Just in terms of, at least from my perspective, work rate, I guess you could say, out of that one. And then we got the Bloodline Civil War. The Usos going against Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa. Now, I thought the match was phenomenal. I thought the moments they had were phenomenal. I thought the tense story nature of this one was very, very good. And, really concluded the story, or the Bloodline story stuff, really, really well. Enjoyed all of that. If you just take the match itself, I think great goes up here for the night in terms of overall. If you watch the pre-show, it's a little bit of a different story. So during the pre-show, we turned it on minutes before the thing went live. We see a promo from Heyman saying Tribal Chief is pissed, he's angry, he's animalistic, he's berserk, he's going to go and really hurt the Usos and make them pay. I think even he said he was going to kick him out of the company and you'll never see him again type line. So with that pre-frame, that setup, when we then got this as the match, it was just like, okay, that doesn't match at all what this is. A standard tag team match with no special stipulations. DQ still on the line, countout still on there, like everything just normal rules, and we're just going in here and wrestling weird stuff. And I think, at least from a viewer perspective, that kind of put a little bit of a sour note on the match. Once again, the match itself, everything was great. It was just like the scratching of the head of like, but you said that, and then it's this. What? Like, it just very confusing and a little bit, took you out of it a little bit. But I did enjoy the fours matches in here. I really enjoyed the Samoan Spike and Spear combo. I thought that was going to win it all. Really, really enjoyed the fusing of those two moves. But they kicked out of that, or both Usos kicked out of that after doing the stacking pin. Usos would take care of the rest of them, putting Solo through a table, or rather avoiding a table spot. Usos would hit him with the 1D and then allowing Jay to get the splash and getting the first pin on Roman in 3.5 years to win this Civil War. Great stuff. Very curious. Obviously, this Bloodline thing has been going on for a long time. I'm curious where it goes from here. If this was truly the end, are we going to develop something with Solo? Is Roman just going to go like full snap and like a desperate aggression after this one? Like, we've been slowly seeing the, I'm sorry if this is not the right word, like degradation of his character, of his confidence, of his moxie, of his, like, how he carries himself. We've been slowly chipping away at it, and to see a man broken and desperate and, like, not insane, but on that level could be interesting as everything crumbles around him that he thinks he's built up. It's just a matter of, like, who do you tell that story against? Is it Solo? Is it Jay? Is it someone else? We'll have to see. But really enjoyed Money in the Bank. I think they've been keeping up with a good string of pay-per-views. Like I said, a few things looked a little rocky. Hopefully everybody's okay and safe. And yeah, just that low point, or the two lowest points of the World Championship match, not delivering, I feel, to the standards that they're trying to build that to be, or need to build that to be. And then just the heavy confusion on the women's tag team stuff of this seemed out of nowhere. If we kind of at least alluded to a little tension either in the week's building or even just in the match itself, where maybe there was aggressive tags or Ronda looked like she was being cocky and you could see Shayna being kind of put down, then I think that would have justified her actions a little bit more in terms of viewership. But to just go for it with no build took away from the match. This should have been at least remembered, in my opinion, better than it is now in terms of just, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on Money in the Bank in the comments section down below. And let's have some fun chatting about wrestling, because wrestling is fun to watch.